I can't remember seeing it pop up saying I was live. Anyway, if I am, hello everybody. Yes, I am live. Okay. Right. What I'm doing here is I'm basically doing practice in the DGT League lobby, but I've decided to try and help out a couple of people with the Subaru. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to drive the Subaru tonight for a couple of races. It's going to be a 10-minute race, which will give me a chance just to see what I can do with the Subaru, and then a 40-minute race where hopefully I can really show what Subaru can do. So one of the reasons for doing this is just to show people what this car's capable of doing, but also a very, very handy trick regarding the Subaru, which is, for example, Gary would have found at the first race the Subaru uses a lot of fuel. Well, if you drive it the right way, you can actually run it on engine mode 2, not burn shitloads of fuel, but still be very, still be very quick. Right. Now, admittedly, I'm not used to driving the Subaru, so it's going to take me a few laps to get used to it and work out what I can really do in it, because the last car I drove around here was the Toyota. Okay, there is another reason for driving the Subaru as well, and that is, even though there is a couple of other guys on the grid here that are in Subarus, no offence to them, I like to think that I'm a slightly better driver, so this may give people a much better representation of what's possible with the Subaru, but I've started fucking dead last. Right. Right, now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pop it onto engine mode 2 to begin with. Ooh. Had to get on the brakes there tonight, Dave. Now put it onto engine mode 2 just so that I can just get to grips with the car, because its characteristics are very different to the Toyota. What I would say is don't take anything that I really do in this particular 10-minute race as gospel of what to do in the Subaru, because I am just getting used to it. Twilight's going to go wide on the next corner. I've slowed down quite a bit there, don't really need to slow down that much, but I've only done it because I don't know how much Dave was going to slow down. The thing's on me. Oh! Hold on, Dave. Yeah, so what I was going to say was, in the Subaru, you don't really have to push the limits all the time, because the car's so capable, but to get the maximum speed out of it, oh shit, you need to not fear it. Okay, let's turn the engine up now. Now this corner down there is not flat out, at least it isn't in the Toyota, but don't be afraid of using a lot of the curb. Oh, the brakes are so good on this car. So hey, you cover that inside on you dirty bastard! It's still going past you. Now if you do get out there, be very careful of the AstroTurf. See, now because I'm not in their chat party, more than likely they've sort of gone, oh, knock him off. Now, one thing I will say is, I mean, it's always a feature for me around this track is to change gear as few times as possible around that first sector. I will get onto that a little bit more later on. He nearly died. You get on the pedal so early in this car with steering still on because it can handle it. Oh, I didn't like that though. Now I'm using quite a lot of the rev range here, but I will tell you that in a normal situation I wouldn't suggest doing that. And the reason I'd say to not do that is because of the fuel. Once you're through that chicane, you can just absolutely plant the throttle and let it go. Right, if I can do this properly, I am going to brake just before the 100 metre marker board for turn 1. It's just around about the time the icon flashes, but then I'm looking for third and fourth gear, or third gear for turn 2, and I'm not thrashing it, but now I can get fully on the throttle. Going to go up to fourth gear for the left-hander, and then more than likely you can stay in fourth, but if it starts going wide you can take it back to third. So you can basically do the whole of this first section in third gear. I'm not going up the gears here and down the gears here, just keeping it in third. Be careful of going flat out through that left-hander, chances are you'll run wide. The earlier you can do a lift there the better. A tricky corner this, you've got to commit to steering. Normally this would be a third gear corner, but because I've got all over the curb, the second gear. Now the Subaru, this corner here, this is going to be Subaru's paradise really, because absolutely nail that throttle. And that's the thing that this car can really do, is when you get to the point of being able to put the throttle on, you can just fucking stamp on that pedal. Now the fuel burn around Suzuka's not that bad, to be honest, in the Toyota or in the VW. I think they can both get about 20 minutes out of a tank of fuel. At this race, with it being 10 minutes, I would expect probably in the Subaru to maybe have a bit less than 50% fuel left. I am putting a lot of steering lock to get through the R130, and I'm not on throttle going through the corner. Now I mentioned as well that I'm using quite a lot of the rev range in this particular drive here, and that's because this is how I would normally sort of automatically drive a car. But in the 40-minute race, I'm going to try and short shift. And the reason for that is, if you're going to short shift, keep it in engine mode 1. Because that way you can still be quick and still save fuel. But also with this car, sometimes you are better off going from 5th to 6th much earlier in the rev range. All depends on the particular straight, the corners and things like that. Okay, I need to slow it down a little bit more for that first right-hander. Interestingly, the Toyota can really attack that first Lesmore, or Degner, sorry. Now I've done the hairpin there in second gear. It's alright. Probably accelerates quicker in first. I can see it'd be very easy to get too confident with this car, but if you do actually brake when the brake icon starts flashing, you can get away with braking so gently and just keeping a high minimum speed, or if need be, like into the hairpin, or into the final corner, being able to really apply those brakes. Now, although that may seem like I went through there quite slow, it's actually a decent speed. Anything above 120 through that corner and staying on the track is a decent speed. I've even been able to do the final corners in third gear. Interesting. Decent lap time this. Holy shit. Okay, 16th. Yeah, the Subaru's good, guys. Now, I'm not driving the car erratically, and you don't need to really. But you can really apply quite a lot of steering angle on this car. Obviously, if you apply way too much, you're just going to understeer off the road. Okay, we're at about 50% fuel. Okay, slowed down a touch earlier, a bit more steering applied, a lot of steering applied, but the Subaru can take it, the tyres can take it as well. Because chances are, you're not going to be doing the whole race on one set of tyres anyway, not around this track. So I look at that tyre wear and think, okay, double that, absolutely fucking fine. Now, what I would say is, obviously, this is sort of one of the first times I've been driving the Subaru for quite some time, but I feel that I would have been able to, if I wanted, run on engine mode 2, not short shift, and potentially still be ahead of SGP. Not by the gap I am at the moment, but also, obviously, I don't know what's happened with them behind me. Right, so have a look at the fuel. Okay, so I've used 55%. In just over 10 minutes. Now, what I can say is, from a test race that I did a couple of nights ago, you really can just throw the steering through the corners. I like the Subaru. Okay, 43%. Right, when I did a test race a couple of days ago, 9 laps in 20 minutes, and it looks like it's going to be about an 18 lap race. It ain't going to be 19 laps. Look, because of the basically the point that we crossed the line for the final lap. Yeah, you would have to be going about 10 seconds a lap faster to do the extra lap, I reckon. So the way that I'm going to look at this in a moment on the in the races and the 40-minute races, to look at it and just go, right, well, in 10 minutes I've used 57% worth of fuel. That means I can't get to 20 minutes. So I have two choices straight off the bat. One, don't worry about it, and we're going to two-stop. So basically, just go as fast as physically fucking possible, right? Burning all the fuel that we want, and make sure we pit before we run out. Now, however long we can get, Obviously then we'd be able to double that and then give ourselves a shorter stop at the end. Or say if we thrash it and it lasts say 18 minutes for a full tank of fuel, I can then go, right, okay, well that means when there's 18 minutes left I can pit and fill the tank up. So I can then try and go from 18 minutes gone to 18 minutes left. How long's that? 4 minutes? That don't sound right, but probably is. Yeah, so you could split it anyway on a two-stop strategy. The other option is, as I mentioned, would be to run the engine mode 2, right, and not... he ain't sorry. Bull juice. Let's see if it lets me put bull juice. What was I going to say? Yes, the other way would be to run engine mode 2 and not short shift and see if we can save the fuel that way, or run engine mode 1 and short shift. So the way that I'm going to try and do it to begin with is to run engine mode 1 and short shift. Now when I say short shift, what I mean is going on my rev gauge, because that's what I'll go from before the rev gets halfway. To be honest, even before that, as soon as the red appears on my rev gauge. And the reason for that is, if you actually look at the rev lights on the dashboard, right, there's a row of lights, those ones. If you look at where they are in comparison to the digital game rev counter, to the point that, okay, shifting, so it's in the green still. It's in the green still. When it appears in the red on the bottom one, I'm still in the green. So yes, I'm short shifting, and it would appear I'm short shifting fucking loads. Actually, I'm not, because if you look at those rev lights, so there's what? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 green lights, and when the red appears on my rev gauge, we're on the 4th green light. Now, if you go beyond the green lights, it then goes yellow. That's telling you need to be shifting, and red, shift now, knobhead. So, what may appear to be shifting very early might not be. Also, if you happen to be on bonnet view, let's see where it is on the rev. Okay, so when the red appears just above the speed and the gears, but next to the steering dot, on the actual rev gauge on the right hand side, it's about 7,000 RPM. So coming now. So 6,500, 7,000 RPM. So it's not like you're actually short shifting a really, really slow speed. But anyway, handy to know. So what I'm going to try and do on this one is to I'll send a message to them. They're being knobheads because I'm streaming. Yeah, so what I'm going to try and do now is to short shift and see if I can get through the first 10 minutes and still have 50% of fuel left. When they eventually get going. Now, interestingly, the corner that I was finding most difficult in this car to begin with was this one coming up, but it's probably because not being in the right sort of gear. Yeah, see, that's more the line that I would want to take. Now I think short shifting is going to help around this track, not only with fuel saving and acceleration, but also being in the right gear at the right time. It's fucking nonsense. Now don't forget as well that in that 10-minute race I did basically all of the overtaking on engine mode 2. Oh, you know what, that's so much better. Okay, short shifting is going to work so well in this Subaru. It's going to make things so, even though the car's stable, it's going to make things so much easier. Okay, I should be leading this one by turn 1, depending on the other Aston Martin. Now, okay, yes, this is going to hurt me in my Toyota practice, but I'm alright with that. Okay, so we've got the new boy, nicknamed Lemmy, because he's a bit young. He's going to run wide here, which is going to make it hard for him at Dunlop. I'm going to let him have that. Ooh, because I've run wide. No! Adrian! Shit. I was too busy looking at what he was doing. It's alright. Right, okay, let's focus on those short shifting. Well, now what I was on about with the using the gears with a short shifting for stability is it is going to be so much better for timing and slowing the cars down. I'm guessing Drew's just had enough. Gotta make sure I don't brake too late in that corner. It's tempting to brake later. Problem is, if you do, you go wider. Okay, so down here, there's a trick to how to take this. It's lift, shift, turn. And on the brakes, if the cars ahead are a bit slower than you. Oh. Now with the short shifting process, if you wanted a little bit extra straight line speed in an attempt to make an overtake, you could elongate a gear. That was close. Okay, so Lemmy's got a bit of lag. You notice here I'm not thrashing the car through this bit. Nearly did the same fucking thing though. Don't be afraid of using a lot of curve there. Try not to cut the corner, obviously, but... Ooh! Oh, Tyler's just understeered off. It's still there though. Yeah, this corner up here, brake when it flashes. You don't have to brake hard, it just allows you to get the car slowed down. Tyre's going to go wide there. He had to get out of it, otherwise he would have gone much wider. Right, short shift down. Okay, so I should be able to tell if I'm kind of on target. By the way, lift and turn. Lift at 1 on, well, about 75-ish, all going wide here. I was looking at the brake marker boards. Yeah, lift at about 75 metres. Okay, so am I on target with fuel? Well, I should have 75% left 5 minutes into the race, and we're nearly 5 minutes into the race, and I've got 80%. Okay, so I'm on course with the fuel. This is the thing with this car. This car has the capability of being the best car on the grid, but you don't have to thrash it to do it. Yes, you can push it if you really need to, but you don't necessarily have to thrash it. You can throw it into the corners if you want to, but I'm not doing that here because it'll look after the tyres a little bit better. But for example, this corner up here, you can attack these corners. Tyler's taking a bit too much curve there. See the power of the Subaru on the exit? And now I'm still short shifting, I've not driven past him. This is the thing, that I could extend the gears there and make the pass easier, but if I was in the fuel saving mode, I wouldn't want to extend the gears. That VW is quick in a straight line though. So yeah, for the corner down here, about 75 metres, just after the 100, lift, shift, turn, get on that curb. Use a lot of the curb and a lot of the curb. VW is fucking quick in a straight line, isn't it? He's also got Jason's slipstream now. Oh, SGP's gone wide. Jason was struggling. See, now the tyres absolutely fucking fine at the minute. This could get difficult. I'm in the wrong position there. Whoa. Connor getting a little eager, eh? Okay, so we've got a minute and a half to make sure that we've still got 50% of fuel. Okay, now looking at the VW's straight line speed, I am impressed with that, but that would suggest to me that I'm not going fast enough through the corners, considering that this car is a beast in the corners. But you do have to be careful, because it is so good on the brakes and it is quick through the corners, doesn't mean you can just ram people off that are in front of you. Okay, let's see if we can really make up some time in this first sector. Oh, I've got a bit wide. But I can get fully on the throttle. Getting Jason to look at his mirrors. Always in trouble. Ooh, look, he got that just slowed down because he knew if he didn't, he was going off. Now I've attempted to get Jason to defend there into this hairpin, which has worked because he's out of position on the exit. Ooh. I'm going to use the revs now that I'm right up his gearbox. Now I know that this car can probably brake at about 100 metres for that last chicane. But I've only used it in a situation where I could overtake Jason there. So Jason's defending, I can brake on the clean side of the track at 100 metres and make the corner. Right, how's the fuel? Okay, we're just over 50% gone, so that's pretty good. But if I now thrash this fuel through the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to get to 20 minutes. So I need to go back to making sure that I'm short shifting. I don't need to be changing gears all the time here. Careful, Dave. Oh, SGP got wobbly there. Now, some people in this race might be going, oh, the VW is stronger than the Subaru, blah, blah, blah. But you've got to remember, I'm driving this Subaru in a way to get halfway through this race with the fuel. So I'm not using it to its full potential because of the fuel. Now I haven't played about with the brake bias either. Personally, you'd have to set that to your own personal preference. I mean, I don't know which way I'd go with it at the moment, but it can have such a big effect that I'd rather just stick with the balance as it is right now. No cars in front of me, so I was able to brake closer to that 100 metres, which is now, look, put me right on Tyler's arse. So it's basically picking and choosing when to push. It's fucking good. Yeah, when to push or how to push. I'm looking at the tyre wear as well. My tyre wear's very good. Tyler's tyre wear, I think he's struggling. Changing gear and I don't need to. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm carrying a little more speed through those corners and I'm automatically just upshifting because of the noise. Now I don't need to really attack Tyler too hard here because I know the car's faster than him on the exit of the corner. Oh, I wonder what's happened to Dave there. Also, if this was a race situation, I mean, me and Tyler haven't pitted yet. There's no real need for me to attack him at the moment, unless I wanted to create a gap. Oh, he's gone late on the brakes. See, he knew I caught him up in that corner last lap, so he's pushed it hard on the brakes and he's not made it. Okay, are we on target with the fuel? Got 31%, that's pretty good. So on average 25% per 5 minutes. Okay, so what we'll do now, right, we'll knock it down into engine mode 2, but not short shift. Let's see what happens to the lap times. Now, if I keep it engine mode 2 on the back straights, it is going to be a little bit slower. But it could be one of those things, if you find it difficult to short shift, then running engine mode 2 in this car might be more useful to you. There isn't much point in using mix 2 in any of the other cars, to be honest though. It makes it too slow. Whereas what I'd noticed when testing these cars for the pre-selection, I found out then that yes, the Subaru is mighty. If you run it at mix 2, it's kind of on par with the rest of the cars. So it's kind of, it does come at a bit of a risk running engine mode 2. Okay, tyres have taken a little bit more wear over the last couple of laps, so I probably would suggest changing them at the pit stop. Okay, so I've lost 3/10 down that back straight, or in that particular sector. I lost 3/10 in the first two. You should. Okay, so 2:18.2. It's not a bad lap time. I've got a lot more fuel left than the others. And that's before I turn the engine down. Now, because I'm on engine mode 2, I am going to use the throttle a lot more through this first sector between the corners, because the car inherently is going to be slower. So 1.5 temps down in the first sector, I'm alright with that, with being on a lower engine mode. Okay, gain time in that sector, that's good. Now the reason that I potentially gain time there is because, although yes I've turned the engine down, I'm using a lot more of the rev range now. Is it saving me fuel? I'm not really looking at it, but it's more to do with what's it doing for the lap time that I'm doing this right now. Now one thing I would say is you might want to have a look at sort of what percentage of fuel I have been using per lap. I think for the next lap, because there is only going to be one more with this fuel, I'll put it back to engine mode 1 and short shift and see how much fuel we use. I think I was on 21% before starting this lap. And just so you know as well, I was going to say, yeah, downshifting rapidly too soon can be very costly when it comes to fuel burn. Now, there's a chance I may run out of fuel on this lap. 11% is about what the Toyota was using on a sort of real attack lap. Oh, I've got a game installed. Didn't realise it was installing. Now, when I pit, technically, I don't need to put a full tank in. But I'm not going to faff about with it, right? I am just going to put a full tank in, because to be honest, if I was racing this car, I would have pitted no later than 20 minutes remaining, because going longer here doesn't really gain me much. So okay, I might be pulling away from Twilight, but Jason and SGP are going to be catching me. Okay, so it looks like running engine mode 1 and short shifting is going to use about 9–10%. Let's not take tyres, just so we can see how the tyres last. I am going to fill it with fuel though. Okay, a few people in the pits. Obviously I've taken on a lot more fuel than I would really need there, but okay, I'm going to come out behind Twilight, ahead of Jason. Oh shit, cold tyres. Now I don't really have to worry about the fuel, so if I want to use up my rev range I can. Now because I haven't changed the tyres, in the pit stops they have gone cold. Now on the Subaru that might not be a good thing. On the Toyota it was a good thing that they cooled down. Even if you take a brand new set they're still going to be cold, so just give yourself at least a lap to get the tyres up to temperature. Now I'm going to really try and not save fuel on this last sort of 15 minutes, just to see what it's going to do to the fuel percentage, because we saw what happened in the 10-minute race, that in 10 minutes I used 57% of fuel, but obviously I've just done what, 23 minutes on a full tank. So there is a big difference on the amount of fuel that you can burn. And the thing is, if you are behind cars and stuck behind cars as well, there's nothing wrong with doing a bit of short shifting just to save the fuel. I mean, even if it's not a case of using the fuel to go longer on the stint you're on, if it means having a shorter pit stop, that can also be of a benefit. Twilight's flying. Does he need another pit stop? Now I know the Toyota can do a one stop. And the thing is, if he took tyres as well, he's going to be in a better situation with tyres than I am. But I will have saved 6 seconds by not taking tyres. Now there is always the potential of not going faster when using more of the rev range. It's another reason for trying it. I mean, yes, it sounds faster, but it doesn't necessarily equate to faster lap times, because it can all be down to, as I mentioned earlier, what gear you're in at certain points, for corners, for braking, for accelerating. Also, it is always worth looking at how quickly a car accelerates through the speed. So on this back straight, I won't change from third to fourth until it's right at the end of the rev range. And we look at the speed. Okay, fourth gear. It's accelerating quite quickly now, and then it's slowed down to about 115. And it's slowing down a little bit. But the question is, does it accelerate faster in the higher gear? So when you short shift, as I'll do down the main straight if I can. Oh, Twilight did need to pit. Yeah, so if I short shift, does the acceleration keep going up at a much faster rate? I'd say so. Okay, 5th and 6th isn't that different, but it is a little bit faster in 6th than it is 5th. So it could be a case of not only do you save a bit of fuel by doing a little bit of short shifting, but actually you can go faster because it accelerates quicker, and that's all to do with where the power is in the engine, or like for example where the turbo is kicking in. Is it low range, mid range, high range? So for example the Toyota Supras that we were racing, that had a very sort of low range turbo that kicked in very low, so you could run a much higher gear through very slow corners. Now the Toyota in the Group 4s, its low range is awful, which is why in that car it's better to be in a lower gear and a higher rev range. That's where its speed is. This Subaru is kind of a bit more low to mid range. And by mid range I mean up to about 6,500 RPM. I was about to say Twilight's doing really well in 2nd place. We're battling with Tyler. I mean, this is a track, I know some people have been disagreeing, but this is a track the VW should struggle around. I mean, there's no way one of the VWs can do 40 minutes on the same set of tyres. No way. Obviously the Subaru has that opportunity depending on how the tyres are in the last 5 minutes, sorry. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this was not necessarily to show, oh, look how good I am in the Subaru. It's more a case of to show those that are going to be using the Subaru what it can be, what it can do, what it's capable of. And I think the main thing with it is to have confidence in it. Even if you make a mistake, have confidence in it. I mean, I'm really not pushing at the moment. My lap times are a little bit slow, but I am taking the tyres into consideration. But I can still absolutely nail that throttle on the exit of corners. Got to be careful of the front right tyre. I mean, looking at that, it would suggest to me, with the brake bias, potentially moving it 1, 2, maybe 3 clicks to the rear. See, I could try doing, if I do that and it goes wrong. So let's do it. Now, one of the reasons why I say move it to the rear is because the tyre wear is worse on the front than it is the rear. It means that obviously I've got less grip on the front than the rear. So moving the brake bias to the rear a little bit just takes a little bit of pressure off those front tyres in the braking zones, which hopefully should equate to a little less wear on the front in the braking zones. Now it may also equate to being able to be much more aggressive on the brakes in the braking zones, because if we burn the tyres a bit on the brakes, then I was going to say something, that message has just fucking done my head in. Yeah, if we burn the tyres a little bit on the brakes, then by taking that bit of pressure off, it's just going to give us much better life throughout the whole stint, and potentially stability in the braking zones. One of the things you can do as well is if you see that you've got slightly imbalanced tyre wear, like the front right was worn more than the front left up until this lap, then you can be a little bit more cautious through left-hand corners, but push a little, or keep pushing through the right-handers. But to be fair, Suzuka does tend to wear both fronts quite equally. That first sector, you got the first long right-hander, and then obviously the knuckles, which evens them out a bit, and then a long left-hander, which evens out from the first corner. Then you got the two Degners, which is neutralised by Spoon here. So the tyre wear should be quite equal from left to right. Okay, 5 minutes to go. We should have 25% of fuel. We've got 46. Now, if you do happen to get your wheels on that exit curb, be very careful. Even though this car is stable as fuck, if you get two wheels on the AstroTurf and two on the tarmac, you can still spin. Sometimes it's better to go beyond the curb than to try and stay on the road. But yeah, get ready to lift off around there if you need to. A bit similar with turn one. If you start running out wide, sometimes coming back onto the road can actually cause you to have a spin. Now, the amount of steering that I'm using in this Subaru is considerably more than I'll be using in the Toyota. Mainly because if I use this amount of steering in the Toyota, it will spin out. That car has a very loose rear, but it's caused by a very powerful front end. Whereas this car just fucking loves it. I mean, could you potentially attack the tyres even harder? Yeah, I suppose you could. But when you look at it, you go, okay, if I'd have taken tyres at the middle stop, or my only pit stop, that would have cost me 6 seconds. That 6 seconds puts me right behind Tyler. And right behind Tyler is the pack. So if you are going to push the tyres, bear in mind, you're probably going to need to change them. Also, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed driving this car around this track. I was a bit late there. Okay, so it's going wide. I'm not going to force it back onto the road, but I'm going to rejoin safely. Dirty tyres. Yeah, bad lap time that one. Okay, so what we've got, we're going to have 2 more laps to go. So I would need to have at least 22% worth of fuel. Because obviously you've got to always be aware that there may be 1 extra lap. I've got 31% of fuel, so I'm safe. And that's one of the advantages of having filled up. Yes, it costs me extra time in the pit stop, but it has meant that I didn't have to worry about fuel at all. But I could have pitted on 20 minutes. And driven this stint in exactly the same way as the first stint and easily made it to the end. Oh, the gap's come down, 3.2, Tyler's pushing. See, Tyler's pushing, I'm not. I'm also looking after the tyres and Tyler will not be. Mitch, you cunt. But annoyingly, because a few people have dropped out of the race, it means the boost levels have changed. But also, I've got a feeling Tyler would have put tyres on. The old tyres versus new tyres. Ooh, yeah. Even in the Subaru, yeah, it's gonna be a leveler. And I'm having to take second gear for that corner instead of third. I'm looking up, I got a message. Okay, tyres are struggling. Tyres are struggling. No! Okay, so that would suggest to me, yeah, you do not want to run the same set of tyres. I was absolutely okay until that lap. Bit of dirt on the tyres and it didn't want to stop. You have to be careful here. Tyler's going to get eager. Yeah, see the steering's not there now. Now in hindsight, if I'd have taken the tyres at the pit stop, the 6 seconds that I've just lost, I would have lost earlier, but I would have had much better tyres at this point. I know he can't push around that corner. Don't do that. Bit of handbrake. I can't cope with the acceleration of the Subaru, look. But that VW, as we know, it's quick in a straight line, and I'm going to struggle through Spring and potentially the R130, but he's going to struggle through the R130. So I've done that corner in third this time, but it was so slow in the middle of the corner. Now if he's going to come at me down here, he's going to have to go around the outside. And he can't brake. Or accelerate. So looking at that, take tyres, but also the first thing that I did, I had so much fuel left that I was able to go for another 3 minutes. That second stint then, I only had enough fuel for one more lap at the end, and I'd only been, what, 15-16 minutes on that tank of fuel. Now I wasn't any faster in that second stint. Now yeah, okay, the tyres were older, but if I'd have driven like I did in the first stint with the short shifting, I would have had absolutely zero issue with fuel. I probably would have looked after my tyres a lot better, because I'd have been much more stable in where my gearing was and stuff like that. Fucking Steve, you fucking cursing me on the YouTube chat as well. Right, anyway, hopefully this has been of some use to the Subaru drivers. I might have to do one in the Alpha as well at some point, but maybe not for this week. Right, I'm going to end that stream there so I can just go and focus on my own practice now. So have a good one, everybody, and I shall see you later. Hashtag Gary and Rich for the win.